Hey guys, Matt, IronTrap Garage, and today we're working on the Sweetheart Roadster project again. You may remember last time I got the dashboard tack welded to the Model A dash rail, got everything kind of looking how I want, and we have these couple little blanks that we need to fill in as we start filling the cowl and doing all the different stuff. But one of the things I need to work on that I've kind of skipped over, and I'm really bad at doing when I build cars, is that I tend to jump around, and a lot of times I'll skip stuff that's not as fun to do some of the more creative stuff that I enjoy more. One of those things that I skipped over that I definitely need to go back and take care of now before we go any further is the wishbone area in the front on the car. I have a chrome front axle. It's an old chrome drop axle with some chrome brakes, you guys may remember. I was kind of going back and forth on what I wanted to do, if I was going to use original wishbones and clean them up and chrome them, or if I was going to make my own hairpins. You guys may remember in one of the videos we mentioned I tried making my own out of some thin wall alloy tubing. And the design that I was trying to do myself with some fixturing, which the fixture is still on the bench over here when you cut it off, it didn't work. The tubing kind of, even with sand and heat, it still collapsed a little bit and wasn't going to be as nice as I wanted for this project. Now there's a bunch of different types of hairpins you can do when you get into this stuff, looking at the old photos, and if you're into it, like researching this stuff like I am, there's a bunch of different styles of hairpins that you will see. One of the earlier styles that you would see more commonly that was being made, I would say even maybe 30s, but definitely in the 40s and throughout. Kurtis was a race car, I guess you could say frame or chassis builder, or was a big name in the racing world. And you used to see on a lot of the midgets and different things, what they became known as the Kurtis style hairpins. And a lot of the hot rods ended up getting them because I think they went to Kurtis to have them made because they would see them on the hot rods, and they would get just longer ones made, you know, that looked like the ones on the midgets, but were put on hot rods. So I didn't realize that you could get these. I really liked the style, and that's what I was going to make. And then I started looking online at some of the online places and realized that there is already something out there that was pretty inexpensive. So these are a set of stainless Kurtis style hairpins that I got through Speedway. Because they were stainless, I ended up going with them because I was going to get them chromed if I was going to build a set. With these being stainless, the thing that I liked was that we can mirror polish them, much like we did the exhaust on the Free T, and we can also customize them without having to have an issue with chrome. So if I got some that were already chromed, I wanted to customize something, wasn't going to work. Long story short, hairpins, we're going to make them. We're going to customize them rather. So what I'd like to do is, looking at some of the old photos, I'd like some of the hairpins, guys would customize them. They would put little cross braces in them or do different things. So what I'm going to work on is getting a pattern made up. So we're going to take some chipboard I have on the table here. I'm going to doodle a little bit, try and figure out a design that looks cool in the center here. Blah, blah, blah. We'll see where we get. You guys already want to see me start working, so I'm going to get going. All right, so I got a little piece of chipboard that's left over from us doing the dash that I'm going to put the wishbone on, or the hairpin on, and it actually fits about perfect, which is really great. So I'm going to be using this for a template. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to trace my, just looking for my pencil here. So we're going to be using a pencil so we can erase as we try and figure this out. Got these nice Home Depot pencils a viewer gave us, which is really great. They haven't gone missing yet. So we're going to use these to trace the inner profile of the hairpins so I can kind of figure out what we want to do for a design. And this is the stuff that to me is about some of my most favorite things to do when building old cars. I've always been into the artistic side of this stuff. So to me, this reminds me of, as a kid, arts and crafts. So that's what hot rods are to me, is this big arts and crafts project. So yeah, I get excited when we get to do some just paper or cardboard patterning and just no rules, just make something that looks cool and turn it into a functioning part. So we trace our design here. You can already see these welds, especially in this one here, is a little undercut. So I'm glad I'm going to take care of that, because what I'm probably going to do is fixture this down to a table eventually. And I'm going to weld and fill up where it's a little undercut, the welds that aren't quite as nice. I'm going to fill them up, weld it, blend it, make it look a little nicer, because if we're polishing everything up, I want it to look a little better than it does. and it gives me a peace of mind. So I'm going to trace the outside here, just so I have a shape. And I like this style hairpin a little bit better than some of the other ones. I just like the rounded, how it flows and everything. I think it actually just visually appeals to me. If I'm gonna go for something that's not as crazy of a design, I think using that looks a little better than some of the other ones that have more like 245s bent on the end. This looks a little cooler to me. All right, so there's our design, there's our hairpin. Now we can take this design and copy these if we wanted. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and play with some of my designs of what I think, whether it's a shape or circles or whatever. I got a bunch of different ideas. I'm just going to go and do some doodling and see what I like and hold it up next to the car, and we'll see what we come up with, and hopefully in short order. I got 2 or 3 designs in my head, and I'm hoping one of those 3 will really work. All right, so we tried holding the design up that I did here with just 3 big holes, and I realized that it just is really heavy looking. It makes the wishbone, the hairpin, just look like really heavy and bulky, and I'm not quite what I want. So ditched that idea, flipped it over. I'm going to try a second one on here. So what I'm thinking now is this open end of the wishbone here, if we place this hole just right where I think it is right now, basically, if we do this right, hopefully we can actually get it to when we drop the spindle arm down for the steering, for the tie rod, we can get the tie rod to actually go through this hole, which would be really kick-ass. So I made the holes bigger, started by roughly what I liked for this piece of tape here, I do often. Got my little compass here that I'm drawing the circles, and I'm just scribing circles into it, and kind of just piggybacking off of the outside edge of this. And I'm going to scribe these circles in. So I got my edge there. So I'm trying to keep the same spacing. And this time I don't think I'm going to mark it in with a marker. Probably could have done it with a pencil, and I would have been able to stand back and see that I thought it was too heavy. And I was joking earlier when some guys were here, this is like the time it takes to lay out these designs like this when you're doing custom stuff. It's like you could spend more time doing this than actually making the part, because you just got to find a style that looks good. And some people are probably more of a natural than me at this, and they can just think of a design and see it in one shot, but it usually takes me a bunch of tries to get something that works. And rarely is it my first try or my second try. It's usually a lot more than that. I think by using these larger holes and putting them more closer together, it will make it look a lot less bulky. I'm just not sure. That my other idea I have for this that we were talking about is doing the holes reducing in size as they go back to the back section, which is my next idea. If this idea doesn't work, that's my next idea. And I don't think my holes are going to be centered quite right here. Might be totally wrong. But we will draw it out with the pencil and see what it is, and might be moving on to our next design here really shortly. All right, so I got the got this one. I just drew out. I messed up that one circle, but we're gonna live with it for now. And I taped it into the, cut it out and taped it into the center of the hairpin here. I'm gonna try and precariously set it up so we can stand back and look at it and see what we like. Kind of dig that now that it's taped in there. I'm gonna take it off the stand here. I think that's something like that's gonna look real bitchin'. Have those speed holes cut in it, and I think it'll really add something to it. I think I'm gonna draw another pattern. I really like this, really like it. I think it'll look bitchin'. But and what I was talking about earlier that I was showing you guys is I want to make this hole, and it's pretty much landing where I want. Could probably go back a little bit, but I want this hole to land right with the arm here on both sides, because then our tie rod will basically go right through there, will be the goal. Once we heat and drop this, it'll put it right in the center of that hole, and that'll be a real trick to get the tie rod to go through it. So it's kind of a double feature there. So I know I want that big hole up there at the front, but the next thing I want to try is putting the holes going from that large size and slowly reducing in size till it gets back here to this one will be a smaller hole that might be only a little bit bigger than this shape here. I want to see what that looks like. So I'm going to make another pattern. Same thing. I'm going to tape it to the other hairpin, and then we can stand here and look at it and see which one we like. But I'm going to draw that up first and try that next, and then we'll see what we like. I want the bottom of the hairpin to hit right about where it's at. I might even put it just below the frame rail. I got mounts to actually put it just under the frame rail for where the tie rod mounts. It's right about there. And what I ended up doing is I went about an inch so that the distance from here to the end of this little nub here is about 1.5 inches. So I went 1.5 inches from there to the first hole, and then just did a 1.5 inch spacing all the way up. And the hole's got about, I think I went 1/8 inch smaller on my compass each time to give us a slightly bigger hole as we went up, and then all the way up to the front there. And now I just roughly mocked it up, so I'm sure it's not perfect, but what that'll do, that's pretty damn close. Puts our steering rod, or tie rod, for our steering arm should be right there, about, whoops, right about in the center of that hole, which would be perfect. So I'm liking that. So I'm gonna sit on it for a night or so, and one of these two I think I'm gonna pick. I'm really leaning towards this one. I think just the smaller holes as they go back looks pretty neat. So I think I'm gonna go with something like that. I'm gonna make my final pattern on the chipboard and then cut the holes out, make sure everything's nice and straight and really crisp, clean cuts. And then we can take that piece over to visit Jamie and see if we can cut something out of metal and see if we make this a reality. But I'm digging it so far. Looking cool. It's gonna give a really neat custom look. All right, so after some deliberation, we did a little poll on Instagram, and it turned out that you guys just barely agreed with me. It was a close call, but the tapered holes ended up winning on the hairpins. It was kind of fun to do a little survey on Instagram stories, but so the tapered holes are what seemed to win, but I still thought looked a little bulky, and a couple of the people that I was talking to through DM that was rooting for the same size holes, they were kind of talking about how they wish that the holes were flip-flopped and the smaller holes were towards the front and the bigger holes were towards the back. The reason I didn't want to do that was because we have the tie rod going through the front here is the idea. It's off a little bit right now, but so what I did is I pulled out my old reference photos. I found this old T Roadster or track T that was really cool, and it kind of prompted me to do this. It was one of the cars, and I pulled out the photo to see how they did it, and those old photos, it was same size holes, but the difference that what made it look less bulky was they had a little cutout right here, and then also up front, which is hard to see here, that I ended up putting in my pattern. And what I think that does is it makes it look a little less bulky. It kind of ends the piece so that the smaller hole kind of doesn't look awkward with it going all the way to the end. So I'm pretty happy with this. I'm going to pull out our pattern out of the hairpin, clean up all the edges, and then we're going to go over to Jamie's place where he has his homemade CNC plasma, and we're going to cut a test and then hopefully cut these out of stainless plate that I have, and we will be on our way to nice shiny stainless hairpins that are customized. Can't wait. So let's head over to Jamie's and see what he's got going on. All right, so we're all set up. We made a pattern here, and Jamie cut it out of 18 gauge. So he started out with this crudely made pattern that I made and turned it into this wizardry. And the table is just a little short, the one he's using now, so we actually had to cut it and make it two pieces, and I'll just zap it right there. But we made one little short piece. This is towards where the actual wheel and the drum is, so it'll kind of be hidden, but I will weld this up and blend it all in, and then here's our longer piece. But fits really good. Everything, we're really happy with it. So we cut up some stainless, and we're all set up. Here's the wizard, Grand Poobah Wizard. So he's cutting. We're cutting what, the smaller pieces first?
Yeah, we're gonna cut the small end first.
So Jamie built this madness himself, and when I want things that are really nicely cut and not crudely done, with a hacksaw, a grinder, and a butter knife, this is what we use.
Okay, we're ready to go.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's cut.
So we're using stainless here. Could be an expensive mistake. One of 4 pieces. Just like that. There's one of our pieces. Nice cut.
Yeah, came out good. I'm happy with that.
So we'll cut one more small piece, and then we'll be on to the larger ones. So what are you doing now? You have to set certain points?
Yeah, so we're telling the machine where the material is. We'll tell it that that corner in the lower left is 0, 0. Oops. That's why I set the soft limits. Okay. Once we tell it that that's 0, 0, the rest of the program is based on it.
Oh, okay.
Okay, referencing complete. Now. So I can move the material over some. Alright. Okay, so now the material's set. We'll load the program for the second half. Stainless 2. And this is what we're going to cut.
Sweet.
We'll do a dry run just to make sure the machine doesn't freak out when we run the program. So this will run without the cutting torch.
Ready to cut the big boy.
Let's do it.
Sweet. And one little oopsie. I got camera shy, but that last one was perfect. That's how these things go. Sweet. All right, so we got the two pieces cut. We cut one extra over there just in case I mess up. You can see just little tiny welds we got to do right there. But we just mopped one up because, you know, couldn't resist. And it's gonna look super cool. So I'm gonna take this back to the shop and get them all fit up. If you guys wanna get some plasma work or fabrication done, what's your Instagram?
Linfield Garage.
Linfield Garage. You guys can get some plasma cut pieces done, or you wanna get something cool made, Jamie can help you out. And he's my go-to guy when I want to get something cut that's weird for hot rods. All right, so we got all the plates home. I dressed everything up. The cuts that Jamie made with his plasma cutter were really clean. He warned me with stainless that sometimes the slag is a little worse than other types of metal, and it was actually not that bad. I'm used to cutting stuff by hand where you can't be as accurate or you can't be as steady, and it produces a lot more slag. So this came out really good. All we did is when plasma cutter cuts, it has a slight angle to it, just the way the flame is. So we made our measurements just in the system or in this program just a tad bigger so that I could then sand the piece. So we went back and put it on the disc sander, sanded all these edges to take that little bit of edge from the cut off, and we took some 3/8 solid bar I have here to use as spacers. Andrew cut it down. We have it sitting perfectly in the middle of the hairpins, and everything is just looking bitchin'. I'm really happy with it. So now that we have everything cut and fit, I'm really happy with it. Next time around, what we're gonna work on in the next video on these is beveling all the edges. We're gonna cut these weld these pieces together to make it one piece. Then we're gonna fit it back in and make sure everything fits. Then we're gonna polish everything and put it back together and finally weld it. So hopefully by the end of next video, we will have 2 hairpins that are all polished, looking awesome, and ready to start making our bat wings. But this is huge progress. I've been having this plan in my head for like years, and now that we're actually getting there, it's super cool. So thank you guys for watching. As always, we do videos on Tuesdays, Fridays, and Sundays. Drop us a comment down below. What do you think of my choice for the hairpin design? Thanks, guys. Catch you later.